It's the end of the day with Ray. Hello, my friends. Well, folks, if you look at that gigantic Sharp interactive board, you're going to see someone from Sharp. I got my good friend Chris Johnson. Last week I went outside of Chicago and I visited the Experience Center that Sharp has there, looking at all their wonderful audiovisual equipment. What amazing technology. I did see a gigantic board. I mean, the thing make my mind look small. But I wanted to bring Chris on today to talk about the veteran programs that Sharp has. Sharp's doing some wonderful things for our veterans. We just recently had Memorial Day weekend where we could honor those that have given the ultimate sacrifice. But folks, our veterans are giving sacrifices every day. Their families are giving sacrifices every day. So I thought it would be great to bring Chris Johnson on, who's actually in the National Guard. He's a veteran himself. I'll let him tell a story a little bit. But I want to share what Sharp's doing to help our veterans. And Chris, it's great to have you on the end of the day with Ray. Someone from Sharp and the Sharp Interactive Board. And in honor of this, I actually wore a Sharp shirt, and I said, the hell with the jacket today.
Nice. We got Sharp all over here today.
There we go, man. I'll tell you what. But, Chris, tell us a little bit about yourself, your military experience, and then, some of the great things that Sharp's doing to help our veterans.
Yeah, sure. So I've been in the military. I've just completed my 21st year. I joined at the ripe young age of 31. So my story is a little bit unique. I was halfway through a great sales career, selling copiers actually at the time for a competitor, and decided, I needed a new challenge in my life. And the military really it provided what I needed: some grounding, some discipline, if you can imagine a 30-year-old needed, and some leadership development. And what I do for the military sounds really awesome, but it really is basically sales and marketing. It's psychological operations. And so my military career and my civilian career really have kind of worked hand in hand. And obviously I'm passionate about both. And about 8 years ago, I got the opportunity to join Sharp from a good friend of mine who was here. He gave me a call and said, man, you really have to come see what they're doing there. It's really a different experience. And wow, was he right. The things that are happening at Sharp, it really, I think I say this all the time, it's a great place to be, but it really is. And about 3 years ago, got an opportunity through Chip Maselli, the great godfather of our industry, asked me to come and talk at American Co-op meeting. I said, Chip, what am I going to talk about, right? Like, what do people want to hear from me? We've got Mike Maruzik, who's really the kind of the voice of the industry these days. Why don't you ask him? And Chip said, no, I think we'd like to hear about what's going on with you and your military activities. I said, okay, well, I'll come in and give it a shot, and talked a little bit about what it was like to be a military person, a reservist in a civilian career, and some of the opportunities and obstacles I faced. And the dealers there, really, it was well received, and they really encouraged me to kind of move forward with that. And so that really kind of got this whole thing started. And when that was done, Mike Maruzik came back to me and said, hey, we really want to take this to the next level. We want Sharp to be a destination for military members, veterans, to really come in and see Sharp as a place that they can shine. And let's make Sharp a place where we honor our military. And so he really, between Chip and him, really fired my passion for what we're doing now. And we've done several things that I think are hopefully getting people in the industry excited. As you know, it's our industry faces a lot of challenges, but one of them really is, how do we encourage, especially at this point, like young people who are coming out of the military, to come into this version of the technology industry, right? Join the print industry. And it's a bit of a struggle. And it's a struggle, I think, just for anybody coming out of the military to figure out where to go to find a good career. And it's a little bit of a struggle for us to figure out where we go to find good veterans and military members to join our industry. And that's really, there's a lot of opportunities out there, especially in our industry, to bring in individuals with all sorts of different skill sets. And that's one of the things I've really been trying to highlight, right? And so we've been working hard at Sharp to figure out, how do we attract more members of the military? What can we do? And thankfully, I've got a couple of great people on our recruiting team. I'm going to mention them here: Stacy Dorenzo and Larry Goldstein, who are willing to talk and listen and figure out, how do we attract military people into Sharp. So a couple of things that we've done: we started a whole resource group. What we didn't realize, at Sharp, we have about 1,600 employees, about 100 members of the military, but there's no way for us to really track them. We don't make it a requirement to identify when you're being hired, so it's really kind of self-identifying. So even just reaching out to our own military members within Sharp became a little bit of an issue. So that was kind of our first step, was really just getting our arms around how many military members do we have at Sharp, what's going on, what their needs are. And you know what, the funny thing is, once we kind of got that figured out, we got a team of we got about 8. We call them our ambassadors, and it's their job to make sure that we're communicating everything that's going on with Sharp into our military community here, and then understanding what our military community needs and bringing it back to Sharp. And it was funny, our first meeting we had, Larry and Mike basically said to me, reach out to our military community and figure out what we can do to help them. We got done with our first meeting, and I came back and I had a list of 5 things that we as military members at Sharp could do to help Sharp. And Larry and Mike both looked at that and went, but there's nothing really that we can do to help you. I said, well, that's what you get when you get military people together. You're not going to get a lot of, hey, I need this, hey, I need that. You're going to get a lot of, here's what we can do. Here are the missions that we can take on and accomplish. So that's really been one of the things that I'm most proud of with that military group, is that kind of what we can do. Spirit really shines through in their civilian careers too.
Well, it's amazing because, the first thing you all did was looked at your own team. And a lot of times we're trying to help. It's something like, what's the old saying? Sometimes charity is better in the family first. It starts in the family. And it's, but once you get the understanding of your own team and the veterans within your own team, it really does help you kind of go out on that mission to those external folks to bring them in. And I know you also do some stuff to actually help dealers recruit their own employees. Am I right in that? It's not just about coming to work at Sharp, but you also help the dealers acquire some of the talent that we have from our veterans. Tell us a little bit about that, and is there like 1 or 2 big success stories you could share? I mean, obviously you don't have to share the person's name, but I'm curious, how is this thing working?
Yeah. So we've done a couple different things in helping dealers recruit, right? One of them obviously is just a little bit of education. And, after I have done a couple of public speaking engagements, right? ECS, Frank Canada, obviously I was honored with their, really honored to be their Veteran of the Year. And I had a lot of dealers kind of reach out to me personally to say, hey, how do we engage more with military? And so I was happy to do some of that kind of stuff, and just, a little bit of education on what is it, where do you go to find these guys, and how do you read like a military resume, right? Like they're very different. Some of those kind of things are very, very interesting to look at. But one of the things that I have encouraged them to do is to look at resumes and candidates a little bit differently, and maybe not focus so much on like college degrees, but focus on what does their military experience say about them. Because there are a lot of people who come out of the military, they joined at 18 and they come out at 23 or 24. They don't have that college experience. They look at the technology industry and go, I probably need a degree to get in. And really, for a lot of the positions that we have open, they're probably overqualified. They don't need the degree, right? What they learned in the military probably puts them well ahead of other candidates. So there's a lot of that kind of stuff. And there's just a lot of resources out there. So at Sharp, we've engaged with a company called SkillBridge, and we actually do some internships. So this is a really cool, unique experience where you're getting ready to transition out of the military. And through SkillBridge, you can do an internship at Sharp. And I think we had 5 or 6. Wayne Elliott headed up that for our Sharp business. He's great. And we got a chance to meet those interns in the last month of their internship. So I think they did a 4 or 5 month internship with Sharp.
Wow.
And at the end of that, and they get some sales experience, right? They get some real world sales experience. And at the end of that time, then they've got real world civilian world experience that they can go use. And one of the guys was getting ready to transition out, and he reached out to me and said, I'd really like to go to San Antonio, but there's just not a position at Sharp open for me there. What can we do? And so I reached out to one of my dealer friends and said, hey, I've got a guy who's, no college education, but great experience, went through this internship program, and would you be interested in interviewing him? And of course they were interested, and in a week, he was ready to move to San Antonio. He had a new job and ready to go. So he'll be helping out not just Sharp based on that experience, but that dealer out there as well. So that's a win-win for both sides, and we're hoping to expand that internship program going forward.
Oh, that's awesome. It's funny because in the military, I'm one of those without a degree, but I believe I learned a whole lot more in those 3 years in the military. And I was also one of those that went in at 18 and got to go around the world a little bit. It was kind of fun. But when you think about what the military gave me in my own world was absolute discipline, and the understandings of the importance of accountability. And those are two things I kind of beat the crap out of our industry for the most. We've kind of like forgot about discipline a little bit, and sometimes our accountability is pretty lackluster at best. So I do believe that those military folks have that. It's ingrained in them. And not everything's around college, and the whole world's starting to figure that out more and more every day. But there are some talented people out there, and it's just awesome that Sharp's doing this. And if you're with another one of our OEM friends as a dealer, for instance, and maybe you want to understand Sharp's approach to hiring our military, can these non-Sharp dealers get some help from you or Mike? I mean, is it? I know, well, maybe if you switch over to us, we'll help you more. But I'm just saying, I mean, you guys, at the end of the day, you are the major player space that's really vocal about this. And, I'm sure these other organizations have some things they do with our veterans. Everybody should anyway. But Sharp's always been, front and center with this. And I do thank you for that. As a veteran myself, I think it's awesome. And I thank you for your service as well, Chris, and your continued service. I mean, you're still in there. And,
I appreciate the opportunity to come on and talk. Yeah, I would be happy to talk to anybody. We've made a lot of mistakes, don't get me wrong, along the way, but I think we've learned a lot of good lessons, and
sure.
I'd be happy to share that because I do believe, hiring military, they bring in a skill set and attributes that you just can't test for in a resume or, in some of the skill tests, right? And so we really started this whole thing with find the people with the right values and the right attributes. They'll be great fits for your company. You can train them on anything, you know what I mean? Anything that's happening in the print world, we could probably train you on. We've got great trainers everywhere. But if you come in with the right attitude and the right values, you'll be successful here.
Well, we need soldiers because our industry is absolutely in a battle over disruption. We got digitalization attacking us. So, there is some strategies. There's a lot of things that you learn in the military about understanding strategy, understanding where things went wrong, plan of actions, and the recap of after action reports and all the things that the military teaches you. So, Chris, it was great having you on because, everybody that watches me, everybody that pays attention to Sharp knows this: status quo is the killer of all that'll be invented. Don't get stuck there, and I'll see y'all tomorrow.